4, 3, 2, 1.
Now, customers are the backbone of any and all businesses. If we want to get more customers, we've got to seduce you all.
You've got to progress. If you want to attract bigger people in your life, then you've got to become a bigger person. You've got to become better at your skill sets. You've got to immerse yourself into personal development. You've got to find a mentor. You've got to find one or two people that have the results that you want.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Untold Upline Secrets / The Interviews. Today, I have the honor of interviewing a good friend of mine, someone who I met literally back in 2009, someone who was integral in a lot of things that I've learned inside of the direct response world, inside of the copywriting world, someone who was very, very big and still is in the high ticket world, in the fitness world, but has a very, very deep respect for the network marketing world as well, and has built some very, very large teams, still in the industry, and somebody that I can call a friend, a mentor, a coach that's out there in the industry. So ladies and gentlemen, let me bring on to the stage my good friend and business partner, Mr. Aaron Rashkin. Aaron, what's up, my brother? How are you today?
Hey, what's up, Ced? Great to see you, my friend.
Always good to see you, brother. Always good to see you. First of all, thanks for being on here today. You know, I told you earlier, we're going to have just a candid conversation about who you are, the industry, and some tips and techniques. But for those people that don't know who you are, let's start all the way back. First of all, we've got to ask the original question. Who is Aaron Rashkin?
Well, we are all figuring that out as we go. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure story, right? Yeah, no, it's a great question to start with and a great entry point into our conversation. I'll just share the brief backstory. You know, I'm from New York. I left there when I was 18, but see, I grew up in a very, broken home, let's just say, right? My parents loved me, but they didn't love each other. And that was kind of the catalyst to a cascade of a lot of emotions for me as a young boy and as a young kid growing up in a broken home and kind of trying to figure out where I fit in this world. And luckily, my dad was an entrepreneur, and I got a chance to, work side by side with him. Starting when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I would go to work with my dad to, just spend the day with him. And it turned out I wound up working in his company. I did everything from sweep the floors all the way through to driving a route, a delivery route. And then I got into sales and working with clients and customers. So I really learned the grassroots of entrepreneurship through my relationship with, my dad and his company. It just was like planting a seed in me that I was definitely not cut out to be an employee. Not an entrepreneur, but an employee. I was not cut out to be in somebody else's business and, helping them build their dreams and goals and completely ignoring my own. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't have a lot of jobs. I did. I had a lot of jobs when I was a kid. I did everything from working for my dad to folding pizza boxes and making the dough for the local pizza place, to stocking shelves at a shoe store, gas pump attendant. I worked for my uncle's camera electronics department. I worked for Sears, the old Sears, department store. So I did a lot of things. And, the backstory on my fitness industry career was I broke my back playing high school football. I got crushed at the bottom of a pile. I broke a couple vertebrae in my back, and I didn't get the surgery. The doctors wanted to get me under the knife, and I didn't want to do it. So I elected to heal, self-rehab. And that's how I got started, lifting weights in my basement and working out at the high school gym. And I was an athlete, so I played football and I wrestled, and I was a part of the athletic department at my high school. And it became a part of who I was. And I fell in love with how I started looking and how I started feeling and my level of energy. And it was great, for me, because I was a big eater. And so it was helping me to burn fat and build muscle and, look my best. And so I fell in love with, entrepreneurship and fitness. And I kind of fumbled around in the network marketing industry for a while. If you want to get into how I was exposed to it, we can go down that road too. It's a pretty hilarious story, but that's really what happened for me when I was in in my first, several decades of life. And, the short story on who I am right now, I'm a dad, I'm a dude, I'm an entrepreneur. I run a couple of different businesses, and I'm here to share my, my backstory on how we got to this moment right now, Ced. So fire away.
Absolutely. Awesome. I love that intro, and I love that backdrop. So I met you back in 2009.
That's right.
I believe the first time I came across you was at a Jeffrey Combs event. I think it was either a Jeffrey Combs event or God, what are the guys that used to do those? No, that was a couple of years later.
I think it was No Excuses. I think it was a No Excuses
Summit. Yep, the No Excuses Summit. But your history preceded yourself before then. So let's back up to how were you actually introduced to the actual network marketing arena?
So when I was in college, I was kind of what they call an independent, right? There was all these fraternities on campus, and I rushed a few of the fraternities. I really didn't find anything that I liked. What I did find was a group of guys that I wound up hanging out with, going to the gym with, going out for, drinks at happy hour in college. And we wound up starting a fraternity. So I was a part of the formation of a small local fraternity, and we grew pretty big pretty quickly. And we were kind of like the fun, bunch on campus, if you know what I mean. We had the parties, we had a house. So the sororities liked spending time with us. And, we wound up growing to a point where we had to go national. And in order to go national, when you're a fraternity of, a small group of guys, you have to start doing charity and philanthropy and, really being supportive of the local community. And so we did all the things that you could possibly do to raise money. And we ran out of ideas. We collected money on the street corners with buckets for the American Red Cross. We did car washes, and we did walkathons, and, we did all the stuff that we could to raise money to donate to these charities that we selected. We ran out of ideas. So a good friend of ours actually said, hey, my dad has a friend who says that we could start a business as a fraternity. And so we said, yeah, sure. Bring him into our local, to our Sunday night meeting. It was just a, Sunday night in the student union. And we brought this guy in, and he comes in with a whiteboard, and he comes in with a dog, and he comes in with a grease pen back then. It was, dry erase marker. Yeah. Sure enough, he went through the whole whiteboard presentation of what it looked like to help people and to teach people how to help people and how to build an organization of people. If, two who get two. And that was the old school network marketing presentation, was a whiteboard in front of a room and talking about getting two who get two. It was like the Vidal Sassoon commercial, right? And so I fell in love with the model because, being in personal training and being in fitness, and I'll just put a little disclaimer out there, said I did not become a personal trainer to get rich. I did it because I love people and I love helping people. And I didn't realize how much I loved helping people until I got exposed to network marketing. And I realized how many more people we could have an influence on when we leverage the efforts of others. And so it's a true win-win, because we have a vested interest in everybody's success. So the more we help more people, the more we help ourselves. And that wasn't happening in personal training. And so after years of being in personal training, I wound up leaving the corporate world because I saw the writing on the wall for me. It was not to just trade my time for money. It wasn't just about a linear income. It wasn't just about going to work and getting paid for an hour or two that I was in the gym working with my clients. I like making a lot of money, but I also wanted to know how I can make the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of headaches. And, that's what led me to network marketing. Well, this guy comes in, does the whiteboard presentation. I see the writing on the wall. I see that I can make $10,000 a month without a job, without a commute, without the gym, without my clients, and being in a health club all day for sometimes 12, 15 hours a day. And I didn't just, buy the story. I didn't just like nibble on the hook. I swallowed that thing, hook, line, and sinker, and I was in for life. When I got started,
what year was that? What year was that, Aaron? What year was that?
That was in 1992.
Nice. So I'm dating you a little bit. For those of you that, you know, are new to the industry, there was no internet. There wasn't even MySpace back then. Like I didn't get in until 1999. So 1992. So there was some circles drawn on the board. And what was the first company, Aaron? What was the first company that you were introduced to?
So I'll lead up to it. I think this is hilarious. I think you'll find it funny. So this guy comes in with the whiteboard and he's sharing the circles, you know, drawing the circles on the board, and you get two. And after he spoke about making money based on an organization that you build, I raised my hand. I was the only guy in the room that had my wheels spinning, because I think I was the only one that saw it, obviously, because I was the only one that joined. But I said to him, I said, "What's the product?" He said, "Great question." And so he had like a little hip pack on, you know, one of those little like man bag fanny packs. Right. He zips it open. He pulls out a little handful of something, and he calls his dog over. He had a dog. I think, did I mention that? He brought his dog?
Yeah.
Brings his dog, and his dog comes over. He starts eating the food. He says, "Gentlemen, the product here is dog food. You see how much he loves the food?" And he says, "It's the highest quality dog food in the world. It's got this, that, and he's got all these qualities to it. You know, he's just high quality nutrition. It's got this, antioxidants, and all the things that we hear about human food. He's talking about it with the dog food." And I raised my hand back up and I said, "You would do the same thing for a cheeseburger. Let's be honest here, right?" Dog doesn't care what's in the food, but it was a high quality dog food. Long story short, I was the only guy in the room that signed up. Said, "Give me a minute. I got to plug my computer in here. I forgot to plug this guy in." So lo and behold, I'm the only guy in the room that signs up, and I don't even have a dog. Okay. But my friends all had dogs.
Right.
And so I'm thinking they're all going to buy my dog food, and that's how it's going to go. Right. That's the way I'm thinking is I have a product that is better than what they're using. And he compared it to all these other products out, you know, these other dog foods, you know, IAMS and Science Diet and Eukanuba. I'll never forget the pitch. I told my friends exactly what he said. My words became his words, right? Or my words were his words. And so I just borrowed his presentation, and I sold all that product. I bought $500 worth of dog food on my Discover card, and I made just enough profit to pay my bill, you know, pay off my bill. And I had a little bit of profit left over. So I bought a keg of beer, and we had a party that night. And that's what I did in network marketing. My very first company is I retailed my way to the fun.
Wow. And that's the first time I've heard dog food. Like now, you know, I've heard different companies that sell, you know, pet products, but sure. 1992 dog food. Wow. Very, very interesting. So from 92, that obviously wasn't your first run, you know, and that got you a whole whopping keg of beer. I'm under the assumption that you didn't sell dog food for 2 or 3 or 4 years, or did you?
No, that was it. That was the last time I ever heard from my sponsor. I don't know what ever happened to him, but what happened to me was something changed in me, because I loved the selling part of it. I loved showing an opportunity or a plan. And it wasn't really an opportunity to me at the time, because all it was an opportunity for me to make my money back, which I later found out that most people don't do. But I learned how to market and to talk to people for the very first time about something different than personal training. You know, that was really my first, you know, outside sales job, where it was just commission based, right? That's the only thing we get paid for in our network marketing and direct selling businesses. Is it's feast or famine. And so I learned that there was no salary, there was no benefits, there was no company. I didn't even have any training set, but I had years of entrepreneurship, you know, that base of entrepreneurship just by being around my dad when I grew up. So, but it was the first time I was in network marketing, and I had a company's product that I was marketing, and that's how I got started. But, you know, that was it. I didn't continue after that. I lost touch with the guy. I didn't even have a cell phone. I was in college. And then something interesting happened a few years later, because in 1995, after I had been, through the rest of my college years, and I was still personal training, I left the city of Baltimore, Maryland, where I went to school, and I moved out to California to go follow my dreams. And I don't even know what I was doing out there. I was just kind of following the tip of my nose. I knew there was something better for me than where I lived and grew up on the East Coast of New York. And I just wanted to go explore and see what else was out there. And I think, what I came to learn over the course of many years was that I was on this, I was at the start of a journey, and I didn't realize it, but that journey was really an inward journey. And I had to experience a lot of outward and external parts of the journey in order to open more doors inward. And I always say that the longest journey is the journey inward. And if we don't go within, then we always go without. So that was a very early lesson for me. When I moved out to California in 1995, I was, 3,000 miles away from my family. I found myself back in a gym because it was familiar and it was an easy way for me to make some money. And after a few months of working in that gym, when I got to California, I decided I had enough. I said, this is it. I'm done with the corporate world. And, I never went back. But something interesting happened while I was working in that gym. One of my clients invited me to speak with her husband, who had just gotten started marketing a new product that she thought I might be interested in. And sure enough, I saw that whiteboard come out, and here I am again. And I saw the circles, and I said, oh, I know what this is.
Right.
I'm in. So I signed up for that company. I drove up to Irvine, California, to a hotel up there right off the 405 freeway. And I saw the presentation, and I saw something that night that changed my life forever. I saw that there were people that were making the kind of income and living the kind of lifestyle that I aspired to create for myself. And I sat in those seats in the back of the room, and I said, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yes.
And you know what? Those words became the mother of all action for me, because I'll never forget that feeling that I had when I first saw a group of people doing testimonials, sharing their stories, sharing their product stories, sharing. Now, remember, I didn't have this in the dog food deal. The dog food company, it was just me and my sponsor the night I signed up, and I never heard from him again. He didn't reach out to me. He didn't have my phone number because I didn't have a phone. I was in college, and there was no cell phones yet. And I mean, they were, but they were like this big, right? They were like the size of a shoebox. So I was still just in college. But when I was living in Irvine or in San Diego, when I was up at that Irvine event, I just something flipped for me, and I saw that this was an industry filled with people who aspired to achieve more, just to live the best life possible, to be free in every sense of the word, not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, physically, geographically, right? And I say that all those freedoms, they lead to the most important freedom, which is relationship freedom. That's the freedom you have when you can do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, and for however long you want, and not have to worry about money. You don't have to worry about time, and you just get to spend the life that you love with people that you care about most. So that's how I got started in the industry, Ced.
It's so interesting that you end with that, because I totally agree. I remember a couple of months ago when you and I were taking a trip out to California. It was like we didn't have to jump through a couple of hoops. We didn't have to, but let's check this schedule. Let's check that schedule. No, it really wasn't that. And I think a lot of people fail to realize what this industry can really do when you take it seriously. So that leads me to my next question. When I initially met you, you were in the big ticket world and the copywriting world, and you ventured back into the network marketing world. But I think that there was in late 99, hold on, let me take this back. Is that right? Let me think. I gotta look at myself. 14. Yeah, late 99, early 2000s. There was this big swing on the big ticket world. There were a lot of things happening in a big ticket world. And for those people that don't know what I mean, I'm talking tickets anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000+. And there were different companies that were popping up selling different big ticket items. Yeah. How did you end up in the big ticket world, for number one? That's the first question. And then secondly, how did you parlay that into copywriting, or vice versa? Because you're one of the most profound copywriters out there as well.
So yeah, great question. So it was actually in 2000. So I had joined a company in 2003, and I worked it for about 5 years. It was a traditional network marketing company, and it was right around that time when attraction marketing really started to blow up on the scene. You know, we were using things like Blogspot, and you know, we were, you know, like I think WordPress might have been like right around that time. Squidoo, right? Remember Squidoo Lens?
Yep. Yep.
Right. This is like the very like wild west of the internet in the network marketing. It was kind of like the beginning of internet work marketing. And so in 2008, I had spent 5 years with a company, and attraction marketing became the rage. And it was all about producing content and, you know, attracting people to you. And you know, having them kind of, it was kind of like what the old cliche was, it's better to be the hunted than the hunter.
Yes.
Right. I think Perry Marshall said, you know, if you're you know, when you're selling drills, you're not actually selling the equipment, you know, you're not selling a drill, you're selling a hole.
Exactly.
Right. So there was a lot of old school marketing that I was being made aware of, just being part of the network marketing and direct selling industry. J. Conrad Levinson, guerrilla marketing, right? Dan Kennedy. I started reading a lot of Dan Kennedy. I started reading a lot of Mark Joyner. And this was kind of when the internet, you know, started to really flourish and get into momentum. A lot of websites were springing up, and a lot, you know, I remember my very first website was in 1998. And I don't know if you remember Netscape Navigator.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Wasn't that one of the ones on the CD as well?
Oh man, which CD?
I think Netscape, you needed a CD. I know.
Oh, well, AOL like had a CD, but then there was probably a bunch of startup internet companies. And you know, I first found out about email back in 1995 when I was driving cross country from Baltimore, Maryland, where I went to college for 6 years, out to San Diego. On my trip out, I was actually here where I live now in Colorado. I love Colorado so much on my drive out that I wound up moving here. I've been here for almost 20 years. But back in 1995 is when I found out about email. And then in about 97 or so, 98 is when I started getting familiar with my first computer. And that's when I started, you know, building my own online brand with my private label sports supplement business. I started a private label business back in 1997, and I sold protein, creatine, meal replacements, fat burners. So I kind of got, you know, up to my eyeballs in entrepreneurship at that, you know, young age of 26 years old, 27 years old. But fast forward to 2008, I had been with that network marketing company for about 5 years, and you know, the internet started becoming the thing, and we were using attraction marketing and starting to be able to publish our own ideas and content. Excuse me. So what happened was I wound up joining a company that had a pre-existing funnel, and it was an affiliate offer. And so I learned that there are 3 phases to success in online and internet marketing, Said, and you'll probably agree with this. First, you learn to market other people's stuff. Then you market your story about how you marketed other people's stuff. And then you can market anything to anyone, anywhere in the world, right? So those 3 phases, like they were laid out for me through my experience, but I started marketing other people's stuff, right? In network marketing, it's all the product's already made, the comp plan's already set, the company website's already there. They usually give you an affiliate page or a site or a link that brings people to your site. You know, that's the easiest way to get started as an entrepreneur, is to market other people's stuff. Well, I got into a company in 2008, and in my first 4 months, I literally 10x'd my income from that network marketing company, because the new company had a big ticket, which is exactly how you started this conversation. $2,000, $10,000, $20,000 product lines. And at that time, info marketing was the rage, and it still is, right? Hey, look at some of the stuff you're up to, right? Info marketing. I sell information too. My fitness coaching company is all information based, except for my one-on-one clients, where I work one-on-one with older men on their fitness, right? And some women, but mostly for older men, my fitness company. So the information age, you know, at that time was really just blooming. And so we got into high ticket, and we turned our network marketing income into a huge income in a very short period of time. We started marketing other people's products, other people's information. We were monetizing our lists. We were driving traffic through, you know, Google and pay-per-click and popovers and pop unders. And we started using tracking pixels and doing all the things that we had to do back in 2008, 9, 10 to make money online. And so, over the last, 15 years now, right? Since 2008, we're in 2023. So, we're talking about 13 years ago when you and I first got into this industry, and so much has happened since. But my goodness, what a journey we've been on, huh, Ced?
Oh man, it's one crazy journey. It's one crazy journey, which leads me right into the next thing. But I know how particular you are, so I want to say this before we get too deep.
Yeah.
Pull your computer back a little bit or down a little bit so we can get the top of your head. Yeah,
okay. Sorry about that.
It was cutting you off a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I get so excited. I lean into my audience, and I want to just give so much.
Right. So I get it. I don't want you to look back at the interview and be like, "Said you let me talk that long and my head was cut off." Like,
oh man.
I want to make sure.
We good now? We all set?
Yeah, we all good.
All right, on, bro.
Perfect. So next question would be, because I want to now dive deep into some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with copy. You're one of the best copywriters that I know out there. When it comes down to network marketing and big ticket, direct response, whatever the case may be, we're in the internet age now, and we're dealing with so much on social media, and email is never going anywhere. But why would you say that having good sales copy, whether it be good email copy or good sales copy on the corporate website or your own website, or even in your social media posts, why would you say that's so important in this market that we're in right now?
Well, there's so much information being published right now. And, I actually read something recently. It was about a year and change ago that Google published their history department. There's more information published today in a 24-hour period than there was from the dawn of time. Think about this, the dawn of time. I think they said to the year 2014, wow. Right? We are inundated with more info. Think about all the posts that are made on social media, right? First of all, think about all the social media platforms out there between Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and YouTube, right? Video channels. And then, of course, you got TikTok. Just think about how much information is out there, right? So the beauty of the internet is that we can all be self-expressed, right? We can all be fully self-expressed, right? That's the beauty of the internet. The ugly side of the internet is that we can all be fully self-expressed. Yeah. Because there's a lot of not only misinformation, but a lot of distraction, a lot of temptation, a lot of, there's a lot of things out there. And so the more vulnerable, the more connectable we are, right? The more people will feel safe enough to approach us, or to, take a look at what it is we do, or what we're marketing, what we're selling, the opportunities that we offer. And the best way to do that is through copywriting and video. Now, obviously video is preferred because it's the next best thing to being in person, but not everybody loves to be on video. A lot more people would prefer to sit behind their computer and type, or use their phone to type and share their thoughts, share their visions, share their worldviews and paradigms and perspectives, so that they can attract, an audience and attract friends and fans and followers and people that buy into their mission. And copywriting is simply salesmanship in print, and the better you get at articulating your vulnerability, right? Your vision, right? If you're sharing a vehicle, right? I call these the V's of success, right? Your vulnerability, right? You're sharing value, right? Your vision, your vehicle, and how you can help create a victory for somebody else, right? These are all what I call the V's of success. And if you can incorporate those into your copywriting, incorporate those into your storytelling, incorporate those into your videos and your reels and your stories and all the things that you're producing and publishing online, you're going to connect with people at such a deep level that they're going to buy into your leadership, right? They buy your leadership before they buy a membership, whatever that membership is to your, they might buy a product from you. They might buy a physical product. They might buy an info product. They might buy a membership to a program. Whatever it is that you sell, that whatever your company manufactures and you market for them, right? Copywriting is critical because it's your way of being fully self-expressed and allowing people to get to know you, like you, and trust you.
Deep. I love the way you said that. You said copywriting is salesmanship in print. I love that. I love that. That's real right there, especially when we deal with so many people copying post or this or that. And there's nothing wrong with sharing a meme or copying something that you like out there. But for the most part, especially when it comes to social media, us being original, that's just a whole different level, which makes me monkey branch into the next question, because you tap danced on it a little bit, but I want to go down that rabbit hole a little bit deeper. And here's the rabbit hole. Why do you think video is so important in building a sustainable network marketing business these days?
Well, because I think, like I said, it's the next best thing to being in person. And, with the world the way it is today, the trust factor has been really diminished because of the way our socioeconomic and political landscape is, right? There's a lot of division right now. Right? There seems to be like two camps. There's this camp and then there's this camp, right? So when you're on video, it allows people to feel a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more certain, I think is the best word, that you are a real person. We don't have to have the same political views. We don't have to have the same views on what happened over the last few years around the world with the COVID. We don't have to share all those same views, but what we have to share are some really, really important values when it comes to, our ability to be self-employed, right? Be fully self-expressed, our beliefs when it comes to business, right? Some of our business philosophies. And when we can articulate that in a video, right? In a live environment without being face-to-face, it allows people to get to feel safe with you and to feel like they can come to you for whatever it is that they need. And I've always used video. I don't go, public or I go live enough because, I just have so many things that I do. I should probably turn my camera on at least once a day and just do a mind dump for people that, are looking for some leadership, that are looking for some direction, that are looking for, more understanding. Somebody asked me the other day, what is your definition of understanding? Well, understanding is all of our beliefs, all of our worldviews, all of our paradigms, all of our values that we perch ourselves on top of. Therefore, those things are our understanding. We're standing on top of those things. Those are the things we stand for, right, Ced? And what we always say is those who stand for nothing fall for anything, right? So when we have a very strong understanding, it means that our foundation is rock solid and we become immovable. We become, I think there's a term for it, un-F-withable, right? I think people say that, right? I don't want to use a lot of profanity, but, un-F-withable is a pretty good thing to be in a very effed up world. So video is a really strong way to get your message across if you cannot be face-to-face. And I do video all the time. I do lives and Zooms pretty much on a daily basis. I just don't go live enough. I don't think anyone feels like they ever do enough, and I'm no different than you. So.
Oh, that's deep. You're getting deep. I gotta ask you the same question. I had another multiple seven-figure earner on earlier that I asked this question to, and I want to ask the same to you because you've done the same multiple seven figures inside this industry. When we look at video, for the new people that might be looking right now, what would be one or two tips that you would give them that could help them with video right now?
Well, it's funny you bring that up. I'm actually centering myself in the video right now. I just turned my computer. So first and foremost, don't be speaking like this, right? Thanks for the heads up. But then also you want to fill the frame, right? So it's not like this. Like I'm not sitting here talking with my head like a little tiny head, talking head, right? We want to have our body in the frame, right? Fill the frame out properly so that it feels like I'm right there in front of you, right front and center. So that's the first and foremost. And then, of course, I think the best tip I could give on video, Ced, is to not be so worried about what everybody else thinks of you.
Bingo.
I mean, I felt that way for years when I was in my youth. What do they think of me? And it's funny, I share this all the time. Everybody's worried about what other people think of them so much that nobody's even worried about you. They're focused on how you think of them. So don't pick yourself apart. We got to learn to be kind to ourselves. I was sharing this story the other day with my team. Dustin Hoffman, if you remember Dustin Hoffman, he was one of the most prolific actors back in the 80s. You remember the movie Tootsie?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So in the movie, before he got cast for that movie, he went on record in an interview saying that he really didn't think he was going to be handsome enough to become a big actor because he felt like he had a big nose. He called it his schnozzle, right? And he says everybody has a schnozzle. He said there's always something about ourselves that we get worried about. And meanwhile, nobody else really thinks about us that way. They just look at us as the whole person. Well, we zoom in on that one thing that we don't love. We're worried about what everybody thinks of us. Meanwhile, they're more worried about what you think of them than what they think of you. So it's all about being okay with ourselves, getting comfortable with who we are and how we are. Everybody got a schnozzle, right? Doesn't mean everyone has a big nose. It just means there's things about ourselves that we know aren't perfect. But you know what? We could be perfectly imperfect. And there's no such thing as perfection in production. Said, right? You don't have to get it right. You just got to get it going.
Yeah, very good point. It makes me think of two different scenarios when you said that. One, I've got a good friend that's an absolute rock star, man. She is a machine on the phone. On the phone, she is a machine. But she unequivocally refuses to do video. And I'm like, you make a strong 6 figures. But as soon as you cut the freaking camera on, your 6 figures will jump dramatically. And the biggest thing that stops her is the insecurity of what other people are going to think.
Yep.
Who cares about your hair? Who cares about your eyebrows? Who cares about your background? This or that. I was saying this earlier to one of my friends. I said, a couple of people say to me, well, Ced, I don't have a 500-gallon fish tank. And I'm like, neither did I for a long time. I mean, duh. I mean, okay, I've got one now, but who cares? Like, I did videos outside. I do videos in the car. I happen to do a lot of work from my kitchen. So I'm in my kitchen all the time.
Yeah.
So that's where the fish tank is. But one of my good friends, I remember he started off in the basement of his grandmother's house, and it was just a plain white wall. So I think you hit it on the head of not being concerned about what other people think. And I think that TikTok has proven this too. And I know you don't do a bunch on TikTok, and I'm playing with it here and there, and I'm not all over the place on it, but I like to do a lot of reels. But
Sure.
One of the things that TikTok has proven to a lot of people as well is that people want original content.
Mm-hmm.
Just be yourself. Just be yourself. Or you outside walking, cut the camera on. Oh, people are doing videos in the bathroom. People are doing video all over the place. That's when people can relate.
Yeah.
I think that's so key, especially in our industry.
Yeah. The truth is that, the way we get to where we want to go is by turning the camera on at an inopportune time. I was afraid, what were they going to think of me if I went on camera? What were they going to think of me if I really shared how I felt? Right. A minute ago, there was a shadow across me over here. It was like a
Yeah.
You want to see what I'm sitting in front of? This is still out from Halloween.
That's what that shadow was. Perfect.
This is what was sitting next to me for the last 20 across from behind my computer, and I noticed a little shadow on my shirt. So I was trying to move my camera because the dome on that thing is like on my shirt.
Right.
But that's how we're real people, Ced. I think people sometimes forget that we're real people. I'm sitting around. I got all these things around me in my house, and I got a bunch of books right here, and I got all these things all over the place. And you know what? My kitchen sink is a mess. I got laundry to get done. I went and got a car wash this morning, but I didn't I got to go vacuum out my car. We do things every single day that you do, that everybody watching here does. And we're no different than you. The only difference is that we got started before a majority of the people, and we stuck to a system of personal development, and we built our skill set while we built our mindset, right? Those are the two things that we get paid for in direct selling, is our skill set and our mindset. And 98% of your skill set comes from the right mindset, right? So there's, we don't do a lot of things to be successful, but we have to learn to do those things really well, right? Our skill set, our mindset. And when we can commit to those things, the world's our oyster, right? So we don't have to be anywhere at any time except for to get on Zooms like this so that we could share information that will help change people's lives all over the world that are looking for this kind of lifestyle.
Absolutely. Bro, you are monkey branching these questions perfectly for me, because it's like leading into the next, which here's the perfect monkey branch. You talked about the skill set and the mindset. So I always say that network marketing is simply personal development with the product attached to it. That's all it is. How important, can you tell the people how important is the personal development when it comes down to building a real business? Because you've built a multiple 7-figure business in different niches. So how important is that mindset, that personal development, when it comes down to that?
It's everything. I mean, I think one of the famous, dead presidents once said, if I had 5 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 4 hours sharpening the axe.
Right.
Right. It's no different. If your mindset is not deliberately focused on the skills that it takes, right? Notice I said mindset and skill set again. These are going to keep coming back up over and over and over again, right? I'll give you an example. I shared with my team the other day. I said we could either build occasionally, we could build casually, or we could build deliberately. Literally, where we sit down in front of our computers or we get on our phone and we either schedule appointments, we schedule time to connect with people, to take them through an interview and qualify process. But there are a few key skills that we have to deliberately and with conscious effort master as best we can, right? And as soon as we can. Those skills are simple: marketing, right? And talking to people. That's it. It's all about marketing and talking to people. And when you learn to put the right message in front of the right person at just the right time, right? The selling part, right? When the marketing is done right, like what I just said, right? Putting the right message in front of the right person at just the right time. When you do that marketing properly, when you do that marketing correctly, right? When the marketing is done right, the selling part is a piece of cake, right, Ced? Because very little is actually required. When we get new people started in our businesses, when we make sales, we're selling without selling. Right? Ced, it doesn't feel like we're selling. When people join my fitness coaching program, or they buy my products, or they join my team, they don't feel like I sold them into the business, because I learned how to interview and qualify people for whatever it is that I market, right? Whether it's my fitness or whether it's one of my info products or my team, if they're joining me, it doesn't make a difference. It's interviewing and qualifying, And Ced, like, better than anyone, because you're a master at interviewing and qualifying and marketing and talking to people and leading people through a system, right? Nobody does it better than you. And that at the end of the day, that no matter what it is we sell, right? Whatever we market, whatever company we're with, whatever our services are, products, right? The product is never really the product, right? The product is people. And when we learn more about people than we learn about this product that our company makes or allows us to market for them, right? When we learn more about people than our product, then we've just learned more about the real product that we market, which is change, right? The opportunity for change, to have more, to be more, right? To be able to do more, right? Jim Rohn said, be more, do more, have more, right? We market change, said, and you know, there's only two kinds of people out there, right? The first person wakes up at the crack of dawn, gets dressed for the day, says goodbye to their partner, their spouse, kisses the kids goodbye, gets off onto the highway and sits in traffic until they get to their cubicle or their job space or their workspace or their office or their classroom or the truck or the field or the factory, wherever they go to work to make ends meet. And that person looks around and says, this is all there is. This is all there is.
Right.
And they're going to make the best of whatever it is that is, right? That's the first person. The second person wakes up at the crack of dawn, gets up, slams the coffee, gets in the car, drives to work, gets to their job, looks around and says, this can't be all there is. This can't be all there is. That's who we're looking for. Those are the people that we have to learn to identify, right, through this interview process, get them exposed to the information. Now, the first part, the identify part, that's where the interview comes in. That's where the conversation starts, is in the interview, to qualify them, to see if they truly want what they say they want badly enough to take a look at the information. Now, you and I both know, said that we're lifelong entrepreneurs, right? We couldn't work for other people for the rest of our lives. And there are millions and millions and millions of people all around us, right? If we live in a major city, I live in right south of Denver, I couldn't live long enough to sponsor the number of people that I drive by from my house to pick my son up at school 2 miles away. I couldn't live long enough to sponsor the number of people that I see in my local 2-3 mile radius. So for somebody that's new to the business, or they're just getting started in the industry and they want to learn how to set themselves free, you got to learn how to market. You got to learn how to talk to people. You got to learn how to interview people and qualify them and take them through this process where you identify them as the right person, right, for this opportunity that you then get them exposed to. Then you validate by following up, asking them if they liked it, you know, what they liked most, you know, and then getting them to a website or maybe on a call with somebody else to help validate the information, or back to the site to go do more research and watch a video. And then you collect a decision, you know, and I say, you know, tell me yes, tell me no, tell me quick, because I got to go. I don't have a lot of time.
Say it again, Aaron, for the people that know, please see.
Tell me yes, tell me no, tell me quick, because I gotta go. I got a million other people driving around that want to look at what I have to offer. Yeah. I have zero attachment, right? We cannot afford to be discouraged. Okay, let me just say that right now. We cannot afford to be discouraged. And we cannot have any attachment to anyone yes, anyone no, anyone maybe so. It doesn't matter, because you're already in the deal, and the decision that you have to collect is your own decision that you make, that you're going to be successful no matter who joins you, because the better you get, the better your skills get, and the better your skills get, the better your leads, your contacts, your prospects, and the people you're showing this business to get. So it's a matter of, you know, I said that the words "I can do this" are the mother of all action, but at the same time, repetition is the mother of all skill.
Yes.
And so, you know, I always say every master was once a disaster. So if you don't think you're good at what you're doing right now, you got to be willing to put forth the effort and practice every single day, and you'll get better. And the better you get, so will the people that you're around.
Man, you are dropping some boulders here, brother. You are dropping some boulders. You mentioned the word qualify a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the word qualify a couple of times.
Yeah.
Can you tell people why is it so important to qualify their prospects and not sign up every single person that may want to sign up with them, or that may be breathing? Because I'm new and I need to get this person in and I need this win. Yeah. Why should they qualify them?
So I look for a few key qualities in people, and you know, I have this like cookie cutter ideal partner, somebody that I want to, you know, whether it's a client, you know, a coaching client, or a partner in my business. So I'm always looking for somebody who has a huge desire for success, right? They're hungry for change, right? And the way you know that they're hungry for change is because they don't resist. They don't put up a lot of friction. They're not arguing with you. They're not sitting here telling you all the things that they're not going to do, right? Have you ever had that said? Somebody says, well, I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to talk to anyone I know. I don't want to call anyone I don't know. They start listing off all these things they don't want to do. Well, somebody that wants change badly enough, somebody that wants to, change the quality of their life badly enough, they have a huge desire. So they don't resist. They don't put up all this friction and start telling you and trying to boss you around. Why don't you just send me your link? Why don't you just tell me all about it? Right? That doesn't happen when somebody's hungry and has a huge desire for success, because, and that leads me to my second quality I'm looking for. Are they coachable? Are they teachable? Do they listen more than they talk? Right? Mm-hmm. Or are they one of those know-it-alls? Like, I already know this, right? I already know all this. Right? Why don't you just cut to the chase and just tell me, what are we selling? What's the bottom line? Right? Those people are the ones that probably also tell you that they're going to make you rich. How many people said they were going to make you rich, and then they joined the witness protection program the next day? We can sit here and talk for days, man.
It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
Yeah, so that's it. So I'm looking for someone with a huge desire to succeed. I'm looking for someone who's coachable and teachable, and somebody who's willing to put forth the effort. So I take them through a very simple qualification process. I want to get to know who they are, what they do, what they want, but can't have with what they're currently doing. And then what's stopping them from getting it? What's been the big hang up for them? What's been causing them to not have those things that they've told you that they already wanted? So I'm interviewing for those responses so that I get to know them. Remember, I said earlier that our product is, not really our product is people. And, when we find out more about people than they find out about us, right, it allows us to send this unspoken message to them that we're the leader that they're looking for. In other words, there's two kinds of listening. There's active listening and passive listening. And when we actively listen, because we learn to ask good questions, we learn to listen beneath the surface, not just to what people say, but what they mean by what they say, right? There's a lot of telegraphing going on. I'll give you an example. I asked somebody, have they ever started a home-based business before? Have they ever been an entrepreneur? And they go, well, I'm always looking. Well, I know you're always looking, but I want to know if you ever got started. Right. Have you ever actually committed to anything? Have you ever actually invested in yourself by getting started with a coach or with a mentor or joining a company that is a vehicle for you to ride off into the sunset? Have you actually ever opened up your wallet and taken out your credit card and signed on the dotted line? Because I don't care if somebody's always open. I care about whether or not they've actually taken the first step and made an investment in themselves. So that tells a lot. It's very telling when somebody tells you they always keep an open mind, right? If you talk to me, I'm very closed-minded when I'm started in a company, right? Ced, you're closed-minded, right? Once you're zoomed in on your target, you got to close your mind to other opportunities. You got to close your mind to, hearing what everybody else has on their agenda for you. Because if you're not closed-minded, right, it's important when you're not committed to be open-minded. But once you're committed, right, to a worthy cause, you got to close out all the distractions and put your blinders on like a racehorse so that you could dart to the finish line, right? There's nothing more sexy in our industry than developing a fast start story, getting out the gate quickly so that you could share that story with people for the rest of your career, with that company or that opportunity or that leadership group, and it inspires people to do exactly the same thing.
Man, good point. Good point. When you talk about zooming in, I think the other part that a lot of people don't get as well is that when you are locked into something and you know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, that's when a lot of distractions tend to show up. The devil is very, very good at his job. He is so good at his job that he knows what throws you off. Yeah, he knows what throws you off. So let me put this stuff in front of you. I can't tell you, since I started this journey here, I I've got, like, this week alone, I've got 19 interviews set up, right? And it's gonna be a lot of key people, a lot of people that you know, and some very, very good content, right? But over the past week, I've been hit with no less than 8 different business opportunities. Now, typically it's about 3 or 4 a week on average. You know, we always get pitched something.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, it's been double. Then I look back and I'm laughing, right? Because there's nothing on social media or anything anywhere that says I'm looking. What it is the devil knowing what I'm doing, and you're zoned in. So I need to distract you because I know you love multiple streams of income. So if I distract you off of you finishing this book, finishing this course, finishing these interviews, I can play kick the can with what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. And most people don't get that, which brings me into the next question, Aaron, because you're a fan of this. I'm a fan of this, but I think that you have the same mindset when it comes down to it. And this is where I want to go. I want to go into the multiple streams of income conversation. You know, you believe in multiple streams of income. I believe in multiple streams of income. We both understand how the network marketing business works. However, on the same token, how do you feel about multiple streams of income? And before you answer that, I want to throw my 2 cents in there because I got a feeling that you're going to be along the same lines. I'm of this mindset that before you can start to create more streams, get the first stream right first. Like, get that stream right first. Otherwise, it's not going to be a stream. It's going to be a puddle. People have multiple puddles of income. They've got 15 1099s at the end of the year, and they total $50,000. And I'm like, what are you doing? Instead of like being focused and zoned in. So talk to the people right now about the power of multiple streams of income, but how important it is to be focused and zoned in on that first stream first before you start to add a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth.
Yeah. Yeah, no, great question. I mean, I think the best way to sum it up is that, you know, what you just said, most people have multiple streams of no income. They got multiple streams of no income. And I look at it like the difference between a shotgun and a rifle, okay? A shotgun is a gun that shoots these little tiny pellets, right? They shoot these, you know, a shotgun shoots these little tiny pellets called shot, right? And, you know, you don't have to have perfect aim to hit something, right? Because the bullets, they kind of spray out, if you know what I mean, right? But see, here's the problem, is that the further the distance that the shot travels from the barrel of the gun, the less of an impact it makes. Mm-hmm. Okay? So that's a shotgun. Now, a rifle has one bullet that travels through that barrel, and you pull that trigger one time, and whatever you hit, you destroy. Okay? Now, the difference between the shotgun and the rifle is that when somebody has complete certainty and total faith in a company, they're never afraid to pull that trigger on that rifle because they're pouring all their energy and all their effort and all that force that drives through the barrel of the gun so that they can actually hit their goal, like reach their financial goals with that one company. Now, when you get closer or you hit that financial goal with that one company, you know, and you have some stability and you've earned enough income on a monthly basis, right? You have monthly recurring revenue, long-term passive residual income, right? And you know that thing is solid and steady Eddie, right? Think about the guy that used to spin plates on the candlesticks back on the Johnny Carson show, right? He would get that first plate spinning on the candlestick, and then he would start a second plate, right? But he made sure that first plate's, you know, not falling off. So he'd go back and keep that guy spinning, and then he'd go to this one. And then eventually he could have, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 plates spinning at one time. The problem with our industry is that it's hard enough to catch 2 rabbits, or 1 rabbit, should I say, let alone 2, right? It's hard enough to catch 1, let alone 2. So if you're new to the industry and you've never had success before, splitting your focus like a shotgun is like the kiss of death, because how in the world are you going to build more than one business at a time when you've never even built one business to begin with. So I recommend to people said that until they have their primary income, or whatever their primary networking or direct selling or affiliate offer is, until they have that thing to the level of income that they joined it for in the first place, they should not go out and be in, 3, 4, 5 other programs. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't buy those companies' products, because I'll tell you what, there's no better products than in the network marketing industry. I've, been in the fitness and supplement world for 30 plus years. And I've tried products that were manufactured by, mom and pop manufacturing houses, and then I've bought products in the network marketing world, and I've tried different kinds of products and niches and whatnot. And I'll tell you what, the network marketing industry produces some of the best products out there. So if you want to be in different companies, that's one thing, but focusing on just that one company that you feel is the most possible for you to reach your financial goal. And said, I think everybody should have a financial goal of being able to earn on a monthly basis what they spend on a monthly basis. So their overhead, mortgage, right? If your network marketing or direct selling or affiliate marketing income can cover your mortgage every month without you having to even get out of bed, that's freedom right there. So get your mortgage covered, your rent covered, right? Your biggest expenses, your car payment, your insurance, right? Health insurance, huge expense. Car and car payment, huge expense, right? Medical health coverage, life insurance, right? When you can cover your overhead with your monthly recurring revenue, and your income is continuing to go up while you're away from the business, then you can start something new. What do you think, Sad? What are your thoughts on all that?
I mean, first of all, I think the tail end of that, when your income is going up when you're away from the business, that's one of the parts that I think that some people don't get. Because I want to throw this asterisk in there, because we're going to have a lot of 6 and 7, 8 figure earners on being interviewed here, and everybody has their different take. And when it comes down to me, there's going to be some people that are going to look at this and say, well, Sad, you've got positions in other places and blah, blah, blah. And I'm here to say, yes. Here's the interesting thing about that, though. 90+% of the people don't even know I'm there. See, so many people need to be the man or need to be the woman. And at the end of the day, call me the janitor. Just send me my check. Now, how does that work, though? That only works with leadership and relationships.
Yeah.
See, most people forget that part, Aaron. I've got to launch this on TikTok on Monday, then I'm going to launch another one on Wednesday, then I'm going to launch another one on Friday, and I'm going to put this on YouTube, and I'm going to put this on Facebook. And now I look like a jack of all trades and a master of none. Right. Versus this person might like this niche, somebody might like the digital niche, somebody might like the crypto niche, somebody might like the health and wellness niche, somebody might like the travel niche, or whatever the case may be. It doesn't mean that you've got to be the face of those things. But the only way to get to that level is by having that first income so solid that if you were to call somebody about something else, that they respect what you've already built. They respect the fact that what you have built already is working without you.
Right.
That's the part. And so there's layers of leadership that can happen that is working without you. And that's the part that most people don't get. I always say the litmus test of your business is to say, if you wanted to go to the Bahamas, if you wanted to go to the Fiji Islands for a month with no cell phone and just relax for a whole month on the Fiji Islands and take a bath in the freaking ocean every day and live off the land and just enjoy life. And if you come back home a month later and your business is growing, you're good. But if you come back a month later and your business dropped by 30%, it dropped by 40%, it dropped by 20%, it's because your business needed you.
Right.
Which makes you an employee. Because now I got to keep doing it over and over and over and over and over. So before somebody can add something, I feel like you said, get it to that level of income that you're comfortable with, that level of income that makes sense, but make sure that it's constantly coming in month after month after month after month after month before you say, hey, let me add this because I think the other thing of it is also, Aaron, is that so many people think multiple streams of income needs to be multiple MLM companies.
Correct.
No, like if you're making 30, 40, 50 grand a month in one opportunity, even if you're making 10 grand a month in one opportunity, and you invest some money in a laundromat, or you invest some money in a barber shop, or you invest some money in a burger joint, or whatever, you took some of that money that you were making passively and invested it in other businesses. That's multiple streams of income. Nobody ever said multiple MLM streams of income. So
right, yeah. When your phone stops ringing and your check keeps going up, you know you made it in network marketing.
Yes.
Right? But it's funny that you bring that up. I should have mentioned that too. I mentioned that I have a fitness coaching company and info products, right? And I have my network marketing and I have copywriting, consulting. Those are all in different niches.
Yes.
I only market one network marketing company at a time. It's the only thing I do. And the only thing I do in fitness is my own fitness coaching, right? And I got my copywriting and consulting, which nobody can duplicate because that's me. That's agency work, right? And then I have my info products, which are my own products that I sell and my market and I sell. And they're all in different niches, although they're all through me, but they're multiple streams of income. So yeah, great point, said that it's okay to have multiple streams of income, right? We also have investments and we got all sorts of other things happening in the background. But like what you said, nobody knows you're in multiple companies. But see, Cedrick, a guy like you who's paid your price to become capable of having multiple streams of income in the same industry, right? Different niches, obviously, but the same industry. It's a rite of passage to be able to do that. But what I tell the new people, which is kind of what I said earlier, the new marketer, somebody that's still struggling to get their footing, don't try to do more than one thing at a time. Just master, like said, don't, there it is, said, hashtag said, right? It's like, don't be a jack of all trades. Learn to be a master of one. And then once you perfect the skills, like I covered earlier, right? Interviewing, qualifying, marketing, talking to people, leading people through a system to get them exposed and collect that decision. Once you get really good at it and you could do it in your sleep and it becomes, first nature to you and you're great at recruiting, then you could go out and build teams, like said, in 3-4 different companies and, have an income from each company that sets you free, even if, it's almost like a table, right? If one leg breaks, you still got 3 to stand on. I use the spider web as an example, right? Think of a beautifully woven spider web. When one strand breaks, nothing should move, right? Mm-hmm. If you lost one of your incomes, right? When you have 3 or 4 great income streams and you lose one, it's okay because nothing's going to change, right? Now you have a little bit more free time to enjoy more of your life or go start a new one, right? Because once you learn the skills, you'll always pay the bills, right? I think that's the best way to say it.
And I think the other part of it is, and I want to definitely be clear because there's going to be a lot of new people that see these interviews as well. Again, we're not talking about, hey, what I can do, what Aaron can do, what somebody else can do. This is 25 years later. For Aaron, it's 30 plus years later. And my focus isn't on multiple companies. Sometimes over time, the beautiful thing about it is that if you've built some opportunities, they still continue to passively pay you.
That's right.
Something that you built 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, that you're still receiving a check from, but you're not giving it attention. So I definitely want to make that clear at the same time, which leads me into the next couple of questions before we wrap this up, Aaron. I am this fan after 25 years and having a very interesting background, growing up in Richmond, Virginia, and seeing some bad things and spending time in jail and blah, 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 that there's just certain things that you just don't do. We live in this social media environment where everybody has to show everything. They've got to actually be somebody that they aren't. And I don't ever see you doing this. So I think this is one of the reasons why I want to ask you this question.
Sure.
Outside of the legalities of it, because there's the legalities of income claims and this and that and blah, 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 certain things that we shouldn't do. Outside of that, in our industry, why do you think it's important that people don't focus on check flashing. It's almost like to me personally, it makes me think of rappers, right? Make me think of rappers that are always flashing their money all the time or this or that. And where I come from, I put a post up that ruffled a couple of feathers last week. I said, where I grew up at, you never counted all your money in front of 5,000 people that you didn't know. That ruffled a few people's feathers because we live in this industry, right? That I gotta show this screenshot and that screenshot and this back office and that back office, and disclaimers can help sometimes, quote unquote, but I think sometimes people don't realize the target that they put on their back. And I was speaking from a perspective of, I knew of a couple of people literally within the previous 2 weeks that had just got robbed. And they're all big hitters in the network marketing industry. And I'm not going to mention any of their names because it wouldn't be fair, but they started changing how they were moving around. And I know a couple of them from years ago that really got hit and changed the way they moved around. Like imagine somebody breaking into a 25,000 square foot house and your mother-in-law is in the house and the house is so big, she doesn't know somebody's there and rob you of $1 million worth of stuff. Sure. Like in a double gated community, you know what I mean? Like you move differently. When you know better, you do better. That's right. I think Maya Angelou said that. So what's your take on that? Because I never see you're an attraction marketing guy. I never see you flashing. And I think that you got a thought process about this as well.
I did years ago. I thought that was, important to get people to want to work with me was, the money. But, I'll share a quick story and then I'll give you my thoughts on this. But there's a story about a family-owned restaurant, and the son was working at the cash register one night, and it was a busy evening. A lot of patrons in there for dinner, and the little boy was standing at the cash register counting all the money that was coming in from people paying their checks. And there was this long line of people at the cash register, and it got backed up. And the father came over and he said, "Son, what are you doing?" He said, "There's all these people here." And the little boy said, "Dad, look at all this money we got. Look at all these hundreds and 20s and 50s and all this cash we have. We're making money." And the father looks out at the line and he looks at his son. He says, "Son, you take care of the people, the cash will take care of itself."
Yes.
I'm all about the people and not worrying about how much money I'm making. So I don't flash my money or my checks anymore. And I did for some time back in my early days.
Yeah, me too.
But the reason I don't do it today, like you said, I mean, it's not always safe. There's people that I used to do an event at so I bought my neighbor's house. I'll just share the backstory. I bought my next door neighbor's house about 15 years ago. My neighbor's house went on the market. I hated the color. I wanted to buy it for years. I said, as soon as it goes on the market, it's mine. So I came home from somewhere one day, probably the gym or something, and I saw there was a for sale sign. 30 days later, I bought the house. And I used to host events at the house. It was my office house. It was right next door to where I lived. It was right next door to the house I lived in, but I made the house next door my office. And I had these events called Day in the Office. And I would have people flying from all over the world to come sit with me for a couple days. And I would share my business and share all my business strategies the first day. And then the second day we would, kind of decipher their business and take apart their businesses and, kind of go into everybody's marketing and strategies and funnels and advertising. Anyway, when I was advertising my business event, this Day in the Office, I'd have people drive by my house to go check out who was there. If they could see in, they would come by, drive real slow in front of my house. And, it made me realize, we are very public on the internet. And so flashing money is not always the safest thing for yourself and your family. So that's, first and foremost, I stopped doing it back in 2013, 2014, because I had two young sons. I had a newborn child. He was only a few months old when we started that event. And so for safety of myself and my family, that was the first reason. The second reason is because it promotes a lottery mentality.
Yes.
And easy come, easy go, right? Nothing worth having comes easily. And if somebody only joins you because they think that they're going to make a lot of money, as soon as they don't make a lot of money or things don't work out for them, a lot of people are attracted to our industry for the money, but they stay for the feeling.
Yes.
Once they realize that it's about relationships, like you said earlier, it's about the relationship that makes, I always say, when you do the right thing over the profitable thing, the right thing becomes that much more profitable. And when we flash money and we flash cash and say, hey, join me, you can make a lot of money here. As soon as somebody doesn't make a lot of money, now they don't think it works, and we rob them of the opportunity that they have to become the person that it takes to actually make the money. Does that make sense, Ced?
Yes.
We
Yes.
rob them of the opportunity for all the personal growth and all the personal development, right? Jim Rohn always said, I always quote Jim Rohn because I'm such a student of his teachings. He said, everyone should have a goal to make $1 million in their business, not for the money, but for who it must or they must become in
Yes.
order to make the money. And when we flash the money and say, oh yeah, join me for all this money, and then somebody runs up against a brick wall and they say, well, it's not working for me because nobody's joining me. This money is impossible to attain or achieve. Well, now we lose them because they only joined to make a lot of money and not for the other intangibles that our industry brings to the table, which are helping and serving other people, right? Teaching other people how to set themselves free, not just financially, but on a personal level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, right? On a geographical level, meaning they don't have to be tied to one location to have a business, right? The days of, being tied to a dry cleaner or something like that, or owning a gym are over for a lot of people. They no longer have to be stuck in one location. They can travel the world and use the mobile phone, right? They can use their phones to build a business and to serve people and to cast a vision so large that other people's dreams and goals fit inside of it. So that's why I don't feel that flashing the check and boasting about the money is a very smart way to go. Now, the lifestyle is a whole different conversation because nobody doesn't love to travel, right? People that love to travel and take vacations and go to exotic islands, there's nothing wrong with sharing your life and parts of it. My friend Michelle Barnes, Michelle real well said,
Yep.
she's one of my favorite people. And, we've just recently become friends in the last few years, but she shared something recently that was really life-changing for me when I first heard it many years ago. And she talked about the importance of when people think of you, you want them to think of expansion. And you want to paint this picture that when they're working with you, that there's more opportunity by being a part of what you're doing than if they were to just stay at the thing they're currently doing. And it was a really profound change, shift in mindset for me when I heard this 25 years ago, is that when you position yourself as a leader that other people are looking for, they see you as this conduit to take them from where they're at right now to where they really want to be. And that's one of the things that we learn to do through social media, is sharing some of the things that we do in our lives to let people know, hey, we're not just sitting at behind a desk, pushing buttons on a computer. We're out living, we're traveling, we're vacationing, we're out for dinner, we're out with friends, we have relationships outside of, just our phone and our computer. We're actually living a real life. And that's something I said earlier that I personally don't do enough, but it's something that when we get comfortable with, sharing a little bit about our personal lives and some of the things that we're doing when we're not working, that's attractive to a lot of people. And this is what attracts a lot of people to the people that do well in our industry.
No, good. Very, very good points, brother. And for those that are watching, listen, and I don't think Aaron is saying this is either, but I'm not saying 100% of the time, hey, don't show some success. For me, it's the constant, and there are certain people that's all they use it for. It's like every month, because every top earner that I know, every top earner that's a friend of mine that makes, I'm gonna use 250 as a number. Every top earner that's a friend of mine that makes 250 grand a month or more, they don't show any money. You don't even know how much they're making. I've got friends that make 800, 900 grand a month. Now you can tell that they're winning based upon their lifestyle.
Right?
You can tell that they're winning, but they didn't go and post, oh, just had a deposit yesterday of $672,892, because there's always going to be somebody that's going to be looking at that is hungry, that doesn't want to work for it, that doesn't want to build the business. And you know, I'm this big fan of being a millionaire next door. I'm the big fan of it. When, without letting everybody doesn't even know. That's the beauty of network marketing. You could be winning in network marketing and make a ton of money and build a lot of relationships, but you can travel to certain places and people don't stop you. Actors can't do that. Can Will Smith do that? Can Martin Lawrence do that? Can Kevin Hart do that? Can any of these big actors that make crazy amounts of money, can they? No. But there's people in network marketing that make really, really good money. Can they travel and not be bothered in certain places? Yes. Now, if there's a bunch of networkers there, that's a different conversation. But for the most part, if they aren't, it's so that's the part that I think that some people don't get. Throwing a screenshot here and there, you know, here and there isn't that big of a deal, you know, but the constant, but making sure that there's that disclaimer that it's not, that your brand isn't built around it. Your brand isn't built around the flash, because there's a lot of people that have met their demise or have had challenges that have never, ever said them publicly. Never, ever.
Yeah.
Publicly. Never. Some of them don't do it anymore. And then there's some that still do it. Yeah. And I just look back and I shake my head and I'm like, my mom taught me a long time ago, when you don't listen, you feel.
Yep. When
you don't listen, you feel, and it can get very tricky. So I want to shift the gears here, brother. First of all, man, I appreciate the time. We're really, really deep in this interview and went over some really, really good topics, but there's like 2 or 3 more questions and then we'll wrap this up. And this is a question that I think that's really, really deep for a lot of people that are looking at companies right now, or that might be in the companies right now. We've seen a shift in the industry over the years. You know, we both have multiple decades in this, and the early part of our career, and I think that you would agree, a lot of it was based around recruiting. Big recruiting, recruiting leaders, recruiting more people, blah, blah, blah. Over the past, I would say close to 3 years, from my consulting days and consulting different companies still to this day and seeing what's going on in the industry, I feel based upon social media with TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, I've got this philosophy that if it isn't Facebookable, Instagrammable, TikTokable, or YouTubeable, you might have a little bit of a challenge. So my question is really simple. Can you tell people how important are customers in their business these days? Not saying that recruiting people isn't important, because it is, but there's been a shift in the industry.
Yeah.
There's been a shift. So from your set of glasses, why is gathering customers so important in building a sustainable business?
Well, it's credibility. It's, you know, I always say that the true litmus test of a great opportunity is, would people buy the products whether they made money or not?
Yes.
You know, right? And so if you have people only buying the product because they think that they're going to be able to make a lot of money, and they don't really have a passion or a desire or a need for the product, then it's kind of like building a house on a platform of sand. And when the wind blows and the sand shifts, that house comes crumbling down. But the customers are the backbone of any business, and it tells you whether or not you have a real long-term business opportunity that's got legs. And so if somebody wouldn't buy that product unless there was a compensation plan attached to it, that's a problem. So you want to pick companies that have great products. And I think some of the best products in the world come from our industry. And if you're passionate about the product and you know that this is something that you would use whether or not there was an income opportunity attached or not, chances are you're going to be able to share that product with other people the same way you would tell people to go to a great restaurant, or they got to try this, lobster burrito over at the taco shop, or they like, you liked a movie, you told them to go watch a movie. If you love a good product, chances are you have other people in your lives who will also like that product as well. So product consumption is key for long-term sustainability of a company, said.
You know what I say? It's so funny. I love your analogy. I use the analogy of, I say, if Walmart's only customers were the people that work there because they've got an employee discount,
right,
there would be no Walmart.
That's right.
They get an employee discount. Okay, we're the only people that shop here. There would be no Walmart. And there's companies in our industry that are built on that. They're built all on inner consumption. Yeah, it's just inner consumption, no outside customers, which is crazy. And the game has definitely changed. So, last question, Aaron.
Yeah.
Listen, the name of the book is called Untold Upline Secrets, and one of the things that I'm doing with every single leader is I'm ending it with this specific question because I think it's so key, so key. And for everybody that's watching, every interview that you see, nobody has a list of questions before. As you can see, we're kind of like freelancing. We're bouncing off of each other. We're not, I've got an idea of certain questions, but it's not, okay, I'm gonna ask this. I've got this list. No, we're freelancing. But this is one of the questions that is for every single person. If you could go back, because you've been doing this for 30 plus years, if you can go back, whether it was 30 years ago, or maybe it was at year 20, or at year 15, or year 10, whatever it was, when that light bulb hit, if there are one or two untold upline secrets that you could share with people that are watching right now on something that changed the trajectory of your business, or that could change the trajectory of their business, what would it be?
Two things come to mind. They're along the same lines. I'll never forget this moment. I was in Dallas, Texas. It was 1998. It was after a network marketing company that I worked with a group of guys in San Diego where I used to live. And I was qualified for a check to receive it on stage at this event. So I had to get myself to Dallas, Texas in order to get the check and get the money. But I didn't know that I was going to be able to walk across the stage until I got to the event. And as soon as my sponsor told me that I was going to be able to collect that check, but I had to walk across the stage to get it, I started sweating at my armpits. I got hot flashes like I was going through menopause. I literally, I had a little sweat on my mustache, my goatee brow, I was so nervous. And I was standing on this line, listening to all these people's names being called until they got to my name. And I was literally, my feet were planted on the floor. And my sponsor was standing right behind me. And he whispered something in my ear that changed my life forever. He said, you got to do the uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable. And all of a sudden they called my name and I walked out. And this is the first time I had ever been on a network marketing stage. There were 2,000 people in the audience. And I was so worried about how I looked walking across that stage that when he said those words to me, it just shifted something in my entire mindset. My whole frame of reference changed, and I got that check. And I don't even remember walking across the stage, but I remember getting to the other side of it, being so relieved that I got the check, I got the money, I got the $7,000 check, and I made it across the stage without tripping or falling down or embarrassing myself. But those words changed my life, because whenever I meet a situation, whenever I come up in a situation where I meet with some sort of resistance in my own mind, right? I remember the words that Joe B said to me: you got to do the uncomfortable till it becomes comfortable. And that was right around the same time I also learned that our comfort zone is our failure zone. So when we're comfortable and we choose things that don't cause us to stretch and grow, right? My sponsor back in those days said to me, if all you ever do is what comes naturally, I'm not impressed. He said, I'm not impressed. He said, you'll never make it in business or in life if all you ever do is what comes naturally. You got to learn how to stretch outside your comfort zone. You got to stretch outside the safety zone of what is easiest to do. And this is part of self-discipline, right? And self-discipline is the highest form of self-love. So when you know that you deserve to be successful, and you know that you want something so badly that, you know, you think about it, you dream about it, you could see yourself going to the mailbox or opening up your bank account to a 6-figure bank account, 7-figure bank account. When you could see those things, you have to realize that it's going to take some work to get there, and that you have to do the uncomfortable till it becomes comfortable. You have to stretch outside your comfort zone, because your comfort zone is your failure zone. And all you ever do is what comes naturally. Nobody is impressed.
That's deep, bro. That's deep. That's deep. You know, do what's uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable.
Yep. Do the uncomfortable.
Yes, that's so important. Well, Aaron, brother, you have dropped some boulders in this interview. I mean, and I hope that people that are listening that have picked up some things, I hope you've been taking notes, and I hope you go back and replay this over and over and over, because this is going to be one of those videos. You know, when I'm interviewing people, I keep a notepad beside me because I'm taking notes based upon things that they say as well, because I understand that the mind works kinesthetically. So Aaron's dropped some boulders throughout this, and I'm like, ooh, that's good. Ooh, that's good. Let me write this down. Let me write, ooh, that's good. And there's times I've come to you, but you said something like, bro, I got to use that. Like, I got to use, like, go ahead, say it, it's yours. Take it. I'm like, I got to use that. So I hope all of you have taken some notes from this, paid attention to what Aaron has said. Aaron, is obvious on why you're successful in the network marketing arena, in the fitness world, in the consulting world, in the copy world. I'm humbled to call you a friend, brother. So glad that you did this interview, and keep on changing lives out there, man. Thanks so much.
Hi, brother. Thanks for having me. I appreciate all the time we spent together always, and can't wait to see the book and launch this book, man. It's going to be exciting for you.
Looking forward to it, man. Thanks so much, bro. All right, talk to you soon.
Man.
All right, bye.